YouTube advice is abundant, and most of it's probably pretty solid advice for the typical person, or so I'm assuming. YouTube is a game, and people play it by certain rules, but as a late diagnosed ADHD-er, I've spent 7 years haphazardly uploading to this channel, and I've finally realised that what I've been doing is clearly not working for me. So I thought maybe I'll just make my own rules. Firstly though, let me break down how typical YouTube advice is failing newbie ADHD creators with 3 specific examples. Recommending a load of unnecessary gear. We ADHDers famously have a tendency for impulsivity. The excitement of a brand new hobby or maybe a whole new career idea makes you want to get ready and be fully prepared before you start. So you buy everything you could possibly need to get going. And if you're anything like me, you love a package. For a lot of us though, including myself, it kind of ends up with a lot of purchases that are either regretted or we actually just forget we ever bought them. So when I see videos aimed at beginner creators and they're recommending like $300 cameras or this gimbal that's $140 or all these subscriptions to get your royalty-free music and sound effects, it kind of just makes me feel a little sad. Because if you watch these kinds of videos and then you feel like the only way that you can actually grow on YouTube is to buy all this equipment and match the aesthetic quality of the top creators, then not only will you possibly find yourself bankrupt, but you will also likely not get the results that you'd hoped for, and then it's not just a financial hit, it's the possibility of a downward guilt spiral, and because you've just messed up again. As a little aside, I also think a lot of people have either forgotten or never really knew that the word affordable is definitely relative. Like for a lot of people, a $300 camera and a $140 gimbal and accessories and all of this is actually really not an affordable option, and being told that it is when you can't afford it kind of makes you feel a little small. The second point is 1 video a week. Now this one is all over YouTube advice. Nearly every single advice video that I've seen says like make 1 video a week, and this kind of consistency is not really something that ADHD people can or maybe should commit to. And this point also covers stuff like 30-day, 90-day challenges and like do this thing for a year, because it's all kind of cut from the same cloth. And yeah, absolutely, these kinds of motivations definitely can kick the ADHD brain into gear. We'll be absolutely thrilled to get ourselves together and smash out a challenge, because this time we'll finish it. This time will be different. We start off this challenge with the passion as if we've found a whole new purpose in life. We may even buy a whole new notebook just for this purpose. We plan out every week, we learn every rule front to back, and we are ready to go. And yeah, maybe we will make it through the first week at a push, maybe week 2. But as soon as we stumble even just a little bit, the thrill starts to crumble. I failed. Again, why can't I just do things? I'm just so lazy, I need to just try harder. I shouldn't have even bothered starting, I was never going to manage it. A cascade of negative self-talk tumbles into a downward spiral. And in my experience, these kinds of setbacks can keep me out of the game for months, maybe even more sometimes. These challenges really do give you a sense of community, like you're achieving something with other people. They're really great, but paired with all or nothing thinking and a history of consistent perceived failures, the ADHD brain can completely start to break down as soon as you miss or slightly miss one of these arbitrarily decided deadlines from the challenge. And we can consider the 1 video a week advice as a challenge. It's just wrapped up in a habit, which is another nemesis of ours. This isn't to say that ADHD people can't do these things. Absolutely not. I just completely believe that we just need to be able to amend the rules to accommodate the inevitable blips that we're going to have. The third one is niche down. There is definitely logic to this. The YouTube algorithm uses the topic of your videos to know who to show them to. So it makes complete sense. You pick a niche and you make videos on that one topic over and over again, and then YouTube in turn gets to know exactly what you do and who to show it to because they know who would enjoy it. But the thing is, you also have to enjoy it. ADHD brains go after that thing that gives them the dopamine that they're lacking, but it also means that once the novelty of that thing wears off, the dopamine is no longer provided. And when an ADHD person does not want to do a thing because they don't enjoy it, it is really, really hard to get them to do that thing, like really, really hard. And if your niche turned out to be a passing hyperfixation instead of a lifelong special interest, then getting that channel consistently running for a long period of time is just less likely. So where does that leave us then? To understand how we can do it, first we need to understand why we can't do it. This isn't a conversation, it's a monologue. Okay, cool, thanks. Apologies if there is bird in this section because it's not going to stop. So I've done what any good ADHD-er does with a special interest and bought 6 books on the topic 6 months ago and read 1.5 of them since. However, I'm aware this is only 5. I gave this one to my friend recently. But what I did learn is that ADHD is very poorly named. So we've got attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. And the issue really is with that deficit section, because it's not a deficit at all. It's actually an issue with attention regulation. Basically, we struggle with sustaining our attention over long periods of time, and quite often we can't choose what our attention is focused on, like, at all. So no, this does not paint a very pretty picture for us all to suddenly become consistent content creators in one very specific niche for the rest of our entire lives. The odds are not in our favour. And when psychiatrists like Dr. James Kustow say stuff like this. He says, I can't think of a condition in the mental health domain that has as much of a flip side as ADHD. In my experience, managed well with the right support and scaffolding in place and under the right conditions, it undoubtedly has the potential to drive excellence. And I don't know about you, but that's really overwhelming to me. I know it's meant to be encouraging, and he is probably right because, you know, he works in the field and he also has ADHD. But how many of us have all of those things in place or even within reach? So take the right support and foundations. So even if we disregard the issues that ADHDers have with RSD or rejection sensitive dysphoria around being a burden to those around us and only consider the professional support out there, how many of us can actually afford an ADHD coach? How many of us are waiting on 5+ year wait lists to even be assessed, or in countries where medication's just not within budget? And if we take sufficient scaffolding, like how many of us are not in jobs that don't drain all of our time and energy so that we've got nothing left for any outside activity? How many of us are in jobs that pay well enough that we can't just pay our rent and feed ourselves? And lastly, he talks about the right conditions, and my reaction is like, what are the right conditions? That's so vague. But obviously, absolutely no hate to Dr. James. This is a really great book, and you seem like a really nice guy. But what I'm highlighting with this is that there just seems to be so many things that we have to have in place already to even think about this excellence that we apparently have the capacity to reach. But maybe if we break it down, take it one point at a time and work together, me and you, we could maybe make it work. What do you say? Something Hank Green actually said in a recent video of his is that he doesn't follow his dreams, he follows his tools. And that fits so well with kind of the idea I had for these videos that I couldn't not put that in there. And if we're going to follow that metaphor, which everyone is using for so many things these days, but it does work, what do we think the first tool in our toolbox is going to be? So I had a good think about it, and I got through a few tools that I thought would be good starting points, but then I really got to the granular level and realized that the actual base tool I need in my toolkit is actually just accepting that I have ADHD. And I know that could sound really silly, like either you're diagnosed and you have it, or you're pretty sure and you have it, or you don't have it, you know? But there is knowing you have it and accepting that you have it. No, you're fine.
I'm going to sit on that seat because I've had it.
That's fine if you don't mind hearing me yammer on. I have an audience now. Nervous. Okay, so I read Small Talk by Rich and Roxanne Pink, and that's about limiting core beliefs that ADHDers hold about themselves, like negative ones. That's another fantastic read, by the way. It's a really easy read, and they also both read the audiobook if that's easier for you. But when reading it, I realised that as much as I had the diagnosis, I knew what my struggles and symptoms were in relation to this new lens I could see my life through. I was actually still holding myself to a neurotypical standard. When I can't do something that I feel like I just should be able to do, I think of myself as lazy and useless and simply sometimes just a waste of life, and maybe you do too. Now, this isn't really a tool that has a deadline of being finished and done, and I know that we want everything to be done right now. We want to be amazing at every skill without practice and hate ourselves when we inevitably don't achieve those unrealistic expectations. This is, like so many things in an ADHD's life, a continual work in progress, depressingly. I've never been one for using mantras. I actually struggle to be kind to myself at all because I've recently realised that I have a limiting core belief that believes that if I'm kind to myself I'm being arrogant, but we won't open that can of worms right now. However, I do know that we are meant to be particularly good at what we do manage to practice, which means negative self-talk is a well-honed skill at this point. And it'll take a lot of undoing. But to kickstart this process, maybe help each other out a little bit, I would like to invite you to say a mantra with me here and now. I'm terrible at this, and it's okay if you don't believe the words, because at the start you probably won't. However, simply saying it out loud is a huge win at this point. I'll say a line, and then I will leave a gap for you to say it back with me, okay? Even though my ADHD is an unrelenting pain in the bum, I acknowledge that my struggles are symptoms of my condition. They are not a personal failure. My brain works in creative and unique ways. I choose to give it the space to see what it can really do. I'm gonna fly. Well, thank you for doing that with me. If you struggled with any of it, that's absolutely okay. I have cried saying stuff like this out loud before, so don't worry about it. I probably will do it in the future again sometime. But feel free to come back to this video again and again if you really need, and we can say it again together. Right, now I could definitely start going into more practical advice, but if you were anything similar to me, then you need to take things a lot slower than you actually think that you should. Bite-sized pieces, step at a time. And to be honest, realizing that you haven't actually accepted who you really are can take a little bit of time to settle. Okay, so for the first piece of advice in my ADHD-friendly YouTube toolkit is simply that. Accept that you have ADHD. Let it simmer. Just let it sit and be truly honest with yourself. Do you know that you have ADHD, or are you pretty sure but you still hold yourself to a neurotypical standard? Let me know if you've had any light bulb moments like this about accepting who you are in the comments. I'd love to have a chat about how it feels. Maybe you came to the conclusion differently, maybe you accepted straight away, or maybe this is the first time that you've realised that you actually haven't accepted it. I hope to provide a space where we can come together and authentically be ourselves whilst building up the tools we need to become thriving content creators. So stick around if you want to work towards becoming ADHD creators the ADHD way, because I'm just going to keep figuring it out along the way. Remember to have empathy for yourself, and I will see you in the comments. That's a vague idea of what that said. No, thank you. No wind today. Hello, how are you? And yeah, absolutely. Maybe these